students. Today I will discuss medieval age poets, and in medieval age poets I will discuss Geoffrey Chaucer and the contemporaries poet of Chaucer, William Langland and John Gower. And at the end I will discuss Scottish Chaucerians. So let's start with the contemporaries poet of Chaucer. William Langland was the contemporary poet of Chaucer, and the most important and famous poem by William Langland is The Vision of William Concerning Piers Plowman. Shortly it is called Piers Plowman, and this poem is satirical, and the poet criticizes all kinds of corruptions and all kinds of crimes. This poem is satire on the corrupt religious practices, and this poem throws light on the ethical problems of the day. So this was the greatest English work of William Langland. John Gower was the other contemporary poet of Chaucer. John Gower also wrote poems in Latin language as well as in French language, but his famous English poem is Confessio Amantis. This poem is also satirical poem. The poet satirizes the vanities of the current time. So Gower presents himself in this poem a moralist. So these are the contemporary poets of Chaucer, but the most important poet of medieval age was the Geoffrey Chaucer. He was the pioneer of English poetry, and his poetry is divided into three periods. Firstly, French period. In French period, he follows and imitates French model in his poetry, and his famous poem in which he follows and imitates French model is Le Roman de la Rose. Chaucer translated this poem from French into English. In English, it is called Roman of the Rose, and this poem gives the detail about court love and romances. Again, his famous poem of French period is The Book of the Duchess. It is also just like the Roman of the Rose, and the other poems of French period are Complaint unto Pity and ABC. Secondly, the Italian period. In Italian period, Chaucer poetry was influenced by Italian literature. Mostly his poetry was influenced by Dante, Divine Comedy, and Boccaccio Decameron. In this period, he wrote the famous poems Parliament of Fowls, Troilus and Cresside, The Story of Griselda, and The House of Fame. The third age is the English age of Chaucer poetry, because he wrote in this age about his land and his people. He threw away his French and Italian influences completely. He wrote and used for the first time heroic couplet in his poem, The Legend of Good Women, and the most important work of his English period is the Canterbury Tales. He portrays some 30 characters in these Canterbury Tales. These characters are going to Cannes for performing pilgrimage because there is buried the Saint Thomas Becket, and the shrine of Becket is situated in this Cant. So therefore it is called the Canterbury Tales. So in Canterbury Tales, Chaucer tells stories about 30 characters. Geoffrey Chaucer borrowed such storytelling from Boccaccio Decameron. Boccaccio was French poet and Decameron is French story book, and in that story book there were some pilgrims to go on pilgrimage, and each one relates the story. Chaucer brought changes in these stories, but the influence came from this Decameron. So in Canterbury Tale there are 30 characters, there are 30 pilgrims plus Chaucer. So we have 31 characters, and each one will relate two stories while going, and each one will tell two stories while coming back to London. And in this regard, every characters will tell four stories, so all stories will be 124, but Chaucer only completed 24 stories, two in prose, the person and Meleby stories in prose, and 22 in poetry. Then he died. So Chaucer portrays 30 characters in his Canterbury Tale. He discusses characters in four ways. He introduces the character's outward appearance and then goes to his character mind. So, the outward appearance is discussed by Chaucer, and inward nature is also exposed to the readers, is one thing. And second thing, he describes the professional life of the characters as well as personal life of the characters, such as he shows us square. Chaucer shows us square outward appearance, that he has curly locks, he is young and he is 20 years of age, his clothes are embroidered like a field of red and white flowers. And then Chaucer shows us inward nature and mind of the square, that he is lover and lusty young soldier in Flanders, Artois, and Picardy, where he has acquitted himself well, hoping thereby to win his lady love. So this is his inward nature, that he is lover of lady. And Chaucer shows his professional life, that he is a soldier and cavalier. And then Chaucer shows his personal life, that he is a singer and playing a flute, and he can compose songs and music, and he can dance, and he sleeps a very little, just like nightingale during night time. So Chaucer discussed professional life as well as personal life. He discussed outward appearance and inner nature, inner mind as well. When you take all the characters, so there are three groups of characters. First, military group. Second, religious group. Third, secular group. When you bring together all these characters and think over their role in society, that how they performed their role and duty in society, that they performed their duty and role in right way or in wrong way, then Chaucer divided his characters into two groups. One is the role abuser and second is the role fulfiller. In military group, there are role fulfillers such as knight and squire. They perform their duty in right way. In religious group, there are role fulfillers and role abuser. But in religious group, role abuser are more than role fulfillers. In secular group, there are almost role abuser such as merchant, doctor, and carpenter, etc. He did not discuss the two characters in his Canterbury Tales. He left out the extremely poor beggars and he left out the king and queen. Maybe he did not want to disrespect and insult the king and queen. Maybe he did not want to laugh at extremely poor people, because Chaucer discussion of characters based on humor, so humor creates laughter, and he is very much humorous in his approach, and he does not want to laugh the readers at poor beggars. So this was the art of characterization of Chaucer in Canterbury Tales, and this was the portraying of characters by Chaucer in Canterbury Tales. And now at the end I will discuss Scottish Chaucerians. Scottish Chaucerians mean a group of poets who belong to Scotland. They were Chaucerian, mean they were the followers of Chaucer. They were writing in the style of Chaucer and they considered Chaucer as a great poet. They were imitating him and copying him. So one of these Chaucer's followers and Scottish Chaucerians was Gavin Douglas. Gavin Douglas wrote a long poem and a famous poem, The Palace of Honor. It was modeled on the Chaucer's The House of Fame. In medieval age, honor was considered the most important thing, more than life. One will lose life but not honor. So honor was more worth than life. Robert Henryson. Another Chaucerian was the Robert Henryson, and his great and famous poem is Moral Fables. So these fables are actually short stories giving instruction indirectly for the friends. These fables are instructive. They give instruction and advice on how to govern. William Dunbar. William Dunbar was another Chaucer follower in Scotland. He wrote poems The Thistle and the Rose and Golden Torch. The Thistle and the Rose means that rose among the thorns. It symbolizes the life, and it also symbolizes beauty and truth. The beauty and truth were the two central themes for Chaucer and Elizabethan age writers. So these were the Scottish Chaucerians. They were imitating Chaucer in language. They were writing in Middle English, just like Chaucer. They were imitating him in style, form, contents, and in themes. So these were the Scottish Chaucerians. These were the follower of Chaucer's. So thank you, students, for watching and listening, and subscribe my channel for more videos.